How are you, morning traders? Welcome to another session of Market Snapshot. I hope everyone is having a good one. We are happy that finally the shutdown is out. We now need to get access to data, like what really happened. But now the conversation has been, are we going to be making policies based on data that is already behind us, right? Because some of the releases like we'll be getting tomorrow, NFP, it's data that is backdated, right? Should now that will that define how we move forward? So that's a conversation uh, between traders and investors on the best way to handle it. But let's look at what's really interesting. We'll be looking at the FOMC meeting minutes later from 10 p.m. Kenyan time, GMT +3. And so we'll want to hear what the Fed, their decision, especially in October, right? What was their outlook? So would this dampen the hopes for a December rate cut, right? So if you look at what thinking.com is saying, the government shutdown may be over, but it will take some time before everything returns to normal. It will likely take many days or even weeks for federal workers to receive back pay and benefits. Recipients to receive payments. It will also take time for the economic data release calendar to get back on track. But we stand a decent chance of getting the long delayed September jobs report. This will be playing out tomorrow at some point next week. So yeah, this week. So this is what I want to discuss. We'll get the minutes of the Federal Reserve's October FOMC meeting. Remember last month we had that FOMC meeting, but then due to all that delay, we couldn't have access. We didn't have access to the minutes. Said to have a hawkish take, right? Given our Powell assessment in the press conference that we shouldn't take a December interest rate cut as a foregone conclusion. Yeah, far from it. So literally, if we go to the Fed watch right now, we can see 51% expect that the rate cut, there will be no rate cut, like they will maintain the current interest rates. However, 48.9% have said that we could have a rate cut. So you see, majority so far are like, okay, let's take a pause. And this data that is coming out will give us a better picture. This delayed data from September, October will give us a better picture as to how the US economy has been performing during the shutdown. So it's interesting to see how all this plays out. But remember, at the end of the day, this is past data. So we are looking forward to the next data, right? But it will have an impact because it will be geared towards the interest rate decision. Like, how do we move forward? We all know Trump has been pushing for rate cuts, right? Why? He wants businesses, he wants families to have access to cheaper loans so that can spur the economy, right? Because at the end of the day, any economy is driven by money circulation. Like if you look at many situations, like for our Kenyans in the house, the problem we are having is that businesses are not accessing loans, so the banks have decided to loan the government because it's a risk free. Looking at the business environment, so many banks are like, okay, I don't think we can gamble with businesses because clearly, the conditions are not so good. So there could be some defaults. We've seen banks report defaults, right, on loan payments. So that tells you there's a problem in terms of access to cash. Remember, this was cash that could have maybe paid salaries as the business picks up. This is cash that would have led to the expansion of factories. This is cash that would have led to maybe increased production, But then all that is at a hold. So this is what is happening in the US. Trump is pushing guys and saying, hey, Fed, you have to do better. We want those interest rates cuts because guys need to have access to funds so that they can do more, fund that business, expand that business, fund something that probably was pending, all that. So We will see how that plays out. And then there's another data that unfortunately it's not on Forex Factory, but if you come to my FX book, there is data on building permits, right? So basically, what this is the number of approvals, building permits. They're the approvals granted by local authorities prior to the construction of a new or existing building. Okay, so what does that mean? It means this is someone who sat down and said, hey, I'm about to build houses, so I've sought my approvals, right? Because I have the resources. You can't start a building if you don't have the resources. So if there's an increased number of building permits, right? So consensus is that 1.35. So if there's a high number here, then it will mean that the US economy is doing good. Guys are building houses because they expect the economy to pick up, right? And remember, when it comes to building of houses, it takes a lot of industries, furniture, guys who are moving, lawyers, everyone benefits from this, right? So it's a whole ecosystem that empowers a lot of people along the way. So that is some interesting data. These are part of the data that was delayed, right? This is part of the data that was not released due to the shutdown. So we expect to see that could be some high impact. However, any number lower than 1.35 will be negative for the dollar. Why? It means maybe 1.34, 1.33, 1.32. It means less guys applied for building permits, and that happens if you don't have the resources to build a house, right? You can't start blindly. You can't start saying, okay, I'll start this process, and along the way, you must have the resources to kickstart the process, and maybe even to finalize it. So that is some of the expectations. So from 430, sorry, we should expect some volatility based on this news, and then later, of course, we are looking at the FOMC minutes. So that's it on fundamentals, what to expect. So remember, when it comes to fundamentals, risk management is very important, right? You really want to be up to speed. You really want to make sure that you have used the right lot size. You have used a stop loss, you know, so that at least even if you're kicked out, you are able to re-enter a trade based on your analysis, right? So very important. Risk management is one of your most important edges. So with that, let's go to our MT5. Let's see how the market is behaving technically. If you have any questions, please shoot them. I'll respond to them towards the end. So from last week, we've been looking at a bullish GBPUSD. So let's see whether this changes. So if you look at higher time frames, ideally you need to do something called top-down analysis, right? Go to higher time frames to have a clear understanding of where price is moving. So we can see a bit of a bearish move on the weekly. So on the monthly, we are still bearish to 29.16. That's an area where I would want GBPUSD to come to. We can see probably we can even map this order block on the weekly, right? This bullish order block, which is the last bearish candle before I move up. So that's an area where we'll want to see price come to. But a test of this high would also be interesting. That is 205 on that moving average before continuation of the sell. So that's something that I'm looking out for with regards to GBPUSD. Maybe if GBPUSD was to test last week's high, See this area? Yeah, one of these two areas, then it will give me a reason to enter short. Yeah, so a test of this high would be something I would want to see on GBPUSD. Sorry. So if GBPUSD tests the Asian low, this low over here, then probably we could see a bullish move to test that high before continuing with a sell. Either that, or I can see some area here, though it has been tested. This order block has been tested here. It was tested last week. So these are some areas where there could be potential buyers on GBPUSD. EURUSD, we had looked at buy opportunities to this target area. So let's do this again. So from the weekly, we are looking at possible sell, but then I would want price to first test this high before looking at that sell opportunity. 16 on H4. So I would probably want to see how EURUSD reacts to this area before considering a sell trade. And the one area I would want to see EURUSD come to would be this order block, right? This bullish order block, which is the last bearish candle before a move up that broke structure. So probably a downward move or even to the moving average, the 800 moving average, is something that I would consider as a good trade. So if EURUSD was to test this high, which is the weekly high, the high that was set up on Monday, then I'll probably be looking for that downward move. Let's look at AUDUSD. So the analysis on AUDUSD is looking at the movements. We are looking at sell opportunities. So a bullish move is something I would first want to see. Before considering that long. So maybe a test of yesterday's high. There are some sellers here and also some sellers here. So if AUDUSD was to test that high, it will give me a reason to enter a sell. So if price gets here, then I would want to see a possible bullish move. And then now a continuation of the sell. And the sell, I would want to see AUDUSD test this order block. That one. Yeah, that's an area where I would want to see AUDUSD come to. So a sell from 65.18, that's 90 pips to 64.27. It will be a good trade for me. NZDUSD, initially we had looked at this as a possible buy area, right? We can see price indeed came to this area from our analysis last week. So let's map this afresh. Go to higher time frames, get to understand where price is. So just like the others, we are looking for sell opportunities, right? All these pairs seem to be selling. And so a target will be the yearly low. This is what you call the yearly low, the lowest price in the year 2025. I think, which month was this? June. No, April, sorry. Sorry, 6th April. That's an area where we have some potential buyers. So going to the daily, we can see the downward move that is playing out. But before we go to that downward move, I would probably want to see NZDUSD test last week's low. See this one on H4. This is what you call last week's low. Yeah. So if NZDUSD comes to this low, yeah, then we could see a potential move to the upside before a continuation of the sell. Yeah. So that bullish move, and then from there, we'll want to see price now take a bearish move to 178 to 0.5484. But before you get there, let me map out an area here where we could encounter some potential buyers, and then maybe a continuation of the same. USDCHF, let's go to higher time frames. So from higher time frames, maybe on the weekly, USDCHF could be screaming buy. So we can see some rejection over here based on the candlestick patterns. You can see the close, the wicks, right? So with that, last week's high is an area where maybe we'll want to see price come to, or this order block on H4. Yeah, this is an order block, a bearish order block, the last bullish candle before a move down that broke this structure. So that's an area where we have some sellers. We also have some sellers last week's high there, 80.71. So now go to H1. So there's a possibility that you could see some bullish move, and then some bears will come in before continuation of the bullish move. So a possibility of us having that play out. Let's look at USDCAD. So initially we had looked at these possible buy areas. So I can see an area here where I would want USD. That's another block too. So if USD CAD was to push to that high, so one other area where we have some buyers is this one, that one over there. So we have some possible resistance on this moving average, but then a better one will be at 40.36. Yeah, so if we were to see a bullish move, that would be a good trade on USD CAD. Then from there, maybe we could see some sellers coming in to test this low. Something of the sort. USDJPY, we had looked at a possible bullish move to this high. USDJPY is doing things that, it's wild, right? Go to higher time frames. So there's a high likelihood we are coming to this high. $157.41. 157.41 is an area where I would want to see USDJPY come to. Yeah, so that's an area where we have some kind of resistance on the daily chart. So remember, at the end of the day, we are looking at our left to determine areas with some sellers. So this is an order block that could be tested. So let's see how price reacts to that order block. Let's look at gold. From higher time frames, I've always been waiting for gold to get here to this moving average. Why? Because 2025 gold has been coming to that moving average and the sellers get rejected. So if you look at this May move, actually the start, January, price came to the 50 EMA, got rejected, came back in May, got rejected. So you can see these rejections playing out. So I would anticipate that to also play out. For more on this analysis, make sure that you join our free classes so that you can also learn how to analyze the market, right, on your own. So I would probably be looking for a bullish move on gold to be either that high, there's even that one. So if gold tested today's Asian low, that one, then I would probably be looking for that bullish move. Let's finalize with UT100. So we could expect some moves on UT today. To last month's low, that one. So there's a possibility that we could see sellers come here. In the meantime, maybe test yesterday's high before dropping. A bullish move and then a bearish move. That's it on those pairs. Any question? Let me see. No question. So for more on this, make sure that you join our classes so that you're able to have the skills, right? Remember, this is purely educational analysis. And so you really need to have that skill on your own so that you're able to take advantage of these markets and you're able to, analyze on your own. Otherwise, bye-bye. Have a fruitful and peaceful day and the rest of the week.